Hi, everybody. My name is Emilio, and I'm the module leader for international entrepreneurship. I just wanted to kind of give you a brief walkthrough of how to fill out this business model canvas to help you do the best you can do in preparing for your assignments. This business model canvas you will find in the self-directed learning workbook. It is one of the many templates that you should work through to prepare you and your group to do well in your assignments. So right now, I'm actually using a business model canvas from Mural, which I would recommend you download in your teams because it's a really cool interactive software. As students, you have you can download it for free, and I think it's just a pretty nifty tool to collaborate. Anyway, so let's just jump right into it. So the business model canvas is basically a really neat way of being able to kind of compartmentalize the various aspects of your business without kind of overlooking how some of the elements work together. So, as I said, I'm just going to go through a really brief walkthrough. There is no one way to fill out the business model canvas, and that's because it's a pretty iterative process. But we do recommend, at least in the beginning, kind of working through it in this order. So first, we start out with our value proposition. Now, the value proposition is not actually about your product or service, because remember that people don't buy products or services. They actually buy solutions to problems, and these solutions tend to manifest in whatever product or service the business is currently selling. So here you really need to think about what solution you're providing. What challenges are you helping to overcome for your customers? And when you're working through this section, really, really try to distinguish between your customers' problems and your customers' needs, because they are two different things. Now, in order to do that, we need to understand who they are. And so step two is where we work through the customer segments aspect of this canvas. And here is where you should list the various, and there will be multiple, characteristics that will help you build your archetypal customer to better understand who they are, why they would buy from you, and really keeping in mind that you will, more likely than not, have more than one archetypal customer. So the idea here is that you can really, to the T, identify who you're going to sell to. So once you have an idea of who this archetypal customer or customers might be, then we'll move over to channels. And this is in order to determine how we might best be able to reach them. Now, this is both from a marketing perspective and then also from a sales perspective. So is it more appropriate for us to sell our products or services through a brick and mortar store? Is it more appropriate to sell through a website? Or is it more appropriate to do both? Now, it very well could be most appropriate to do both. Many companies do. So which one might you use first? And it's really important here to ensure that it matches with your customer archetypes. So if you choose to use websites or mobile apps, just make sure that your customers are those individuals who frequent those channels. So as an example, it wouldn't make much sense to try and reach customers in the United States with only a brick and mortar store in the United Kingdom. Our fourth step is our customer relationships. So how do we attract our customers? How do we keep our customers? And how do we encourage them to use more of our products or services? So here it's really, really important to think about the customer's journey. What will make your customers come to you in the first place? We can think of this as marketing or advertising, but how do we attract them? However we think about it, the question is, how do we attract them? Bearing in mind that customers don't exist to buy from our business, but actually our business and your business exists for them. So once you have your customers, how do you make sure they stay? And how do you push it even further than that? And how do you make sure that they spend either more money or they use your product or service in even more detail? So at this point, you should give a bit of thought now to your revenue model, in particular, your revenue streams. So how is your business making money? How is it making money from providing the product or the service to the various customer segments? And what is the value that each customer might be paying for? Again, you have to bear in mind that different customer segments are going to engage with your business in different ways. So how will you make money from these various ways? Might you have a traditional transaction model, like, for example, simply selling a cup of coffee or a t-shirt? Might you have a subscription model, for example, like Pret a Manger's coffee subscription, where customers pay upfront monthly and then in store they get, I think, up to 5 coffees free? Might it be a free model for customers where actually advertisers pay you, for example, like Facebook's model? Or will you use a freemium model, kind of like Spotify, whereby you can use the service for free, or you can pay an additional cost for a better version of the service? And how would you cost these to your customers? So how much will they be paying for each of these elements? So now once you begin to think about pricing, this is a good time to start thinking about your resources. And here, when we talk about resources, we're really thinking about what is necessary for this revenue model to be viable. How does it work? How can it work? What kind of assets do you need? For example, do you need a certain physical infrastructure? If so, how will you get it? What is it? Do you need a certain amount of funding? For example, startup funding, startup capital. If you do, how much? Where might you get it from? Do you need a certain amount of know-how? So, for example, if you want to create an app, what's necessary to make this app? Do you need someone to help you make it? Do you know how to make it? And remember that people are resources too. So when we talk about your key resources, kind of try to expand your thinking so it's not necessarily just the physical. So now step 7 takes us to thinking about our partners, in particular, our key partners. And this is really kind of about who do we need? What are we looking for? And how will they help us achieve whatever we want to achieve? For how long, in which context? And when you think about this, you have to remember that the partners we might use domestically, let's say in the UK, is very likely not going to be the same partners we will use if we decide to internationalize to the US or to India or to Brazil. So it's really, really key here to have a very good think about how they help us achieve something and for how long. Is it a physical resource? Is it an intellectual resource? Is it access? Does it help us with our supply chain? Can we source something from them? And you also need to bear in mind that certain partners might offer your business multiple things. So now our penultimate section is our activities. And this is pretty important. This is, after we've given a thought to our value proposition, how it relates to various other elements of our business, it's really time to think about what actually has to be done in order for the business to deliver on this value. So how will our business model practically operate? For example, if you're starting a coffee shop, what has to be done? Yes, of course, you have to sell coffee, but how many customers will you need to sell to in order to break even? How often will you have to resupply? What are the day-to-day activities that will make this shop run? If you're producing, for example, a new line of sustainable cutlery, how many pieces of cutlery will you have to make? How many will you have to sell? How will you make the cutlery? How will you source the materials to make the cutlery? What activities have to happen for this product or this service to reach the hands of the customer? That is what you have to think about when you think about the key activities. What has to happen in order for the value you've promised your customers to actually reach the hands of your customers? And now finally, it's time to think about our costs. So when we think about cost, it's really about the cost structure of being able to operate this entire business model. What do various resources cost? How much might it cost to conduct the key activities? Which of these costs are fixed? Which of them are variable over time? Which costs are more important than others? And you also have to remember here that costs don't necessarily have to just be financial. There are opportunity costs, there's time values. How much does it cost to do, for example, X instead of Y? How much time will you spend on certain activities or making certain partnerships? What could you have done if you decided not to do X, but you did Y instead? So these are kind of the complexities that you'll have to work through in your group to really determine the various elements of your business and how they come together to really create something practical and something that provides a kind of lasting solution. And so the last thing is to remember that when you fill in each of these aspects of the business model canvas, it won't be final. They will most of the times they will be hypotheses. You'll have to test them. This is just you working with your teammates, with your group, and also individually to really try to think, how these things work together, and they won't be final. It is iterative, and that's fine. So it's important to keep adding or taking away from this canvas as you learn more about your business, as you learn more about your team's strengths and your weaknesses, the environment that your business is operating in. So it's really important that as you work through your weekly reflections over the course of the module, to keep coming back to this canvas. If you haven't already downloaded the self-directed learning workbook, I would really recommend that you do so, just so you can have all of these templates kind of collated into one place. And so as you work on one, you can change another one. As you discover something, you can add to this business model canvas. I really think it'll make it much easier for you guys. And I can pretty much assure you that those of you who take the time to work through these templates and work on the self-directed learning are going to do better on your final assessments. So if you haven't downloaded the workbook already, you can find it on the Moodle page underneath the resources and materials heading. It should be the second gray heading on the page, just below the frequently asked questions. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, do not be afraid to email me. My email is on the Moodle. It's e.costales@greenwich.ac.uk. You can reach out to the module leader. Please speak to your tutors. We are more than happy to work with you. We're more than happy to try to help you get through this module. And if you are thinking about starting a business, we are more than happy to help you try to do that. So if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, please say something. Always remember that we don't know what you don't know, but we are here to help you. So I hope this has been helpful. Enjoy the rest of your module. And as you go through the course, as I said, really continue to just go back to these templates within the workbook.